right, Sci-Fi Express Lane. I've been thinking about what I need to think about to make content for this because I'm just spinning my wheels. I've been editing, haven't really been speculating too much. Editing is a different machine than writing. So when I'm writing, I'm thinking of stuff all the time. But anyway, this is Jeff Carroll. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Express Lane. Today I want to talk about something that is an old topic, but it resurfaced because the show got a new season, and just like other things were happening at the same time. I want to talk about like tokenism and diversity. I think just listening to the election yesterday, and they were talking about cloning on the news this morning. Tom Brady and Paris Hilton have cloned dogs, cloned dogs, and they were talking about that, and that made me think of J.D. Vance and his fear of white people not being around in the future, and how he's open to cloning, he's open into a whole lot of oppressive things for women. Just Google it. I'm not even going to get into that. But one of the things they said they wanted to do cloning for was biological diversity. And I'm like, that diversity is a buzzword. Biological is just, they didn't have to say it that way. And so it made me think, yeah, they probably trying to clone people. You know, they say things work in rats, and that's why they, prove it for human testing. If it works for dogs, they have more of emotional, tells than rats, because people don't really have rats as pet animals. They have, dogs. So I was just thinking of diversity in humans. And then I was like, then this, and I'm really running wild. But then the trailer for Stranger Things comes on TV. And I was just saying, why I think I'm really not into Stranger Things after enjoying the first season. It kind of wore on me, and by the time they got to the little black girl, I was like, I'm not with it. It felt as forced as it really is. I'm all for diversity, because diversity is a reaction to all white men, all white people shows. You know what I'm saying? So to put a little diversity in the show, they added a black person, they added a gay or lesbian to the show, but it's not necessarily natural either. You know what I'm saying? When they added homegirl to Friends, she didn't really feel, she wasn't really one of the friends. They had already had a few seasons. We already knew who the friends were. And this is another friend. And then even if she was written in as a friend, how many friendship circles are like that? I do know black people who have had all white friends growing up, and probably throughout their life. Many, now I say all because, probably most of the ones I know, but many of the ones that I know had identity problems, had problems learning how to be black, especially if they started off like that from elementary school. If they made white friends at college, then it's a little different because they've already learned how to be themselves. But, they probably date, a lot of white people. And I'm saying white because I don't know too many people that hang out with Asian people or Indian people either. But for a black person being around white people is different because whiteness was imposed upon us and put on us so much that we pela malo, we like our good hair, we got good hair, bad hair, we think you could be too dark, you got too broad of a nose. The white image was put on us so much that we had a lot of Sammy Sosa, Michael Jackson allegedly misses going on, whether Michael had vitiligo or whatever, he did get his nose done, all right? Because Stephanie Mills said he was the one that told her to get her nose done. So he did have a problem with his blackness, all right? We were not going to debate that. But it just, that type of diversity felt, contrived, forced, but we wanted it because, we needed to have America's diverse, you know what I'm saying? So even if the people didn't hang together in real life, we wanted to see it work. And my problem with Stranger Things is they wanted it to work so well that they went past the writing reality, It just went on so long that it's not even realistic anymore. You know what I'm saying? The kids got older. I don't know if they really act like that in real life. It just felt like you're forcing them together. Now, diversity will work on like Battleship with Rihanna or the Starship Enterprise, where they come together. We know all these different people didn't grow up together and they're really not necessarily friends. They become friends because of their job. That'll work. You know what I'm saying? That definitely will work. Diversity in the workplace, that's a reality. That's how we all, meet it, sometimes at school, but even at school, we go home and we hang out with our friends. You know what I'm saying? At work, sometimes we make work friends and we get together and we be like, damn, we have so much in common. You think just like me, or, we agree or appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? So that works, the workplace diversity, but not the other diversity. You know what I'm saying? That growing up. So to me, that's just how it feels. I mean, I know I'm not saying that there's not black people that grew up with white people. It's their difficulty with us. So, like my first best friend was a white Jewish kid. We still friends, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't me hanging around with 5 other white kids. It wasn't him. He could have hung on my block. Black people don't always have that difficulty. We let the M&Ms in. It ain't no big deal. People like Eminem the rapper, we let him in. It ain't no big deal. But when it comes to the other way around, it is a slippery slope. You know what I'm saying? Black people, have a reality of going missing after they go on trips with a bunch of white friends, and that's not made up. So it's a slippery slope. So to me, that was a drawback to me from from Stranger Things. It had nothing to do with the story. It was just the ensemble, and then they, not just with Stranger Things, but when they do these stories, they try to make the black person authentically black. And that even makes it worse. You know what I'm saying? Because if you are, Big Daddy Kane, Biggie, or Jay-Z, you're definitely not the black person that would be integrated. You got to be like a Wayne Brady. You know what I'm saying? Even a Mos Def would do it just for fun, but his circle would revert back to his crew. And take the gay and the LGBT community. Yeah, they self-segregate. We self-segregate. You're not going to see a group of straight men hanging with, some gay guys. It's not really going to happen. Now, are they homophobic? No, you can write them where they're not homophobic, because it's not all homophobic. I claim not to be homophobic, whatever it is, but I'm not going to hang out with a group of gay friends. I don't know that many, and I don't know a whole group of them to go and hang out with, but I do know a couple, and I don't know if they've even invited me out with them to go places, but we friends, Same thing with like lesbian women. You don't see them necessarily best friends with a group of straight women. Now, will they have a friend that's lesbian? No doubt. You understand what I'm saying? but it's a little contrived to pull them all together and say they're gonna hang. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. Y'all can give your opinion in the comments. Let me know. And I don't. This everything you can be canceled. He said the sky is sky blue. It's not blue. It's sky blue. Whatever. You can cancel me for that. You can cancel me for this. I just think, from what I've seen in reality, we self-segregate. And when we put these groups together, like Friends, the TV show, or Stranger Things, the TV show, to me, it feels contrived. You know what I'm saying? It feels like it's artificial. And I think we can work with it for one movie, one season. We'll work with you. You know what I'm saying? But you go on 4 or 5 seasons, it's a lot to ask for your writers. You know what I'm saying? Because you're putting something together that don't naturally happen. It's not like they're Fantastic Four. Hey, it is what it is. We all superheroes. We got a common objective. But we're talking about friends hanging out, going to the movies, going to the restaurants together. Nah, most people, especially in their teens, young years, their 20s, they out here looking for somebody to date. And that's what they do 75% of the time. So I think, that's just my piece on it. So yeah, tell me what you think. Like, subscribe, share, comment on my what do you call it, on this thread here. I think I'm gonna call it the artificial friendship circles. I don't know. I'm gonna do something like that. But yeah, I just feel that there's other ways that we got to go about doing this. All right. Thank you. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Jeff Carroll out.